My bride left me at the altar. Her sister whispered, "I'll marry you, if you're willing." I still remember the exact moment my life split into two versions, the one I had planned for years, and the one I never saw coming. It started with silence, not the peaceful kind, the suffocating kind that fills a church when 200 people suddenly realize something is terribly wrong. I stood at the altar in a charcoal gray suit, my palms damp around a bouquet of white roses. The music had already stopped. My best man kept glancing toward the entrance. The guests whispered behind me, pretending not to stare. 5 minutes turned into 10. 10 became 20. Then the wedding planner walked toward me, with a face so pale I knew, before she even spoke, that my future had just collapsed. "Daniel," she whispered carefully. "Emily, she's gone." For a second, I honestly thought I had misheard her. "Gone where?" She swallowed. "She left." The room began spinning. "No," I laughed nervously. "She probably panicked." "Brides get nervous." She slowly shook her head. "She left a letter." Every eye in the church was suddenly on me. My chest tightened as the folded envelope landed in my trembling hands. I recognized Emily's handwriting immediately. "Daniel, I'm sorry. I wanted this life once, but somewhere along the way, I realized I was saying yes, because everyone expected me to. You deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation. That isn't me anymore. Please don't look for me. I hope someday you forgive me. Emily." I read those words 3 times, then a 4th. Each time, they somehow hurt more. My knees nearly gave out. My best man, Ethan, caught my arm before I hit the floor. "You okay?" No, nothing about me was okay. My fiancé had disappeared on our wedding day, in front of everyone. My parents sat frozen in the front row. Emily's parents looked just as shocked. Her mother burst into tears. Her father stared at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. The whispers grew louder. "I can't believe she left." What happened? I wanted to disappear. Instead, I stood there, still wearing the smile I'd practiced all morning, unable to convince my face that the happiest day of my life had just become its most humiliating. The pastor quietly stepped down from the altar. "I'm so sorry, son." I nodded, without hearing him. One by one, people began leaving. Some hugged me. Others avoided eye contact. Within 20 minutes, the church that had been filled with celebration felt like an abandoned building. Only a handful of people remained. My parents, Emily's parents, Emily's parents, her younger sister, Olivia. She had been the maid of honor. She still wore the dusty blue dress Emily had picked months earlier. Unlike everyone else, Olivia wasn't crying. She simply looked angry. Not at me, at someone else. She disappeared through a side door without saying a word. I figured she'd gone after Emily. Honestly, I hoped she found her. Maybe she could convince Emily to come back. Maybe this was all a mistake. Maybe I stopped myself. The letter had been too clear. Emily wasn't coming. I loosened my tie and walked toward the empty reception hall next door. The tables were decorated perfectly. Candles, flowers, our initials carved into tiny wooden centerpieces, Daniel and Emily. Seeing those names together suddenly felt cruel. The cake stood untouched in the middle of the room. 3 elegant tiers. Vanilla. Emily's favorite. I remembered tasting samples together 6 months earlier. She had laughed when frosting ended up on my nose. Had she already known then? Had she already been planning to leave? The thought made me sick. I walked outside before anyone could stop me. The autumn air was cold. I sat alone on the church steps. For the first time since I was 12 years old, I cried. Not quietly. Not with dignity. I cried like someone mourning a life that had vanished in a single sentence. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Eventually I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, careful. I assumed it was Ethan. Instead, a gentle voice spoke. Daniel. I looked up. Olivia stood there. She had changed out of her heels and was holding them in one hand. Mascara streaked her cheeks, but her expression was strangely calm. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded. So am I. She sat beside me without asking. Neither of us spoke for a while. Cars continued leaving the parking lot. The decorations inside the church were already being taken down. It amazed me how quickly the world moved on. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. I found her room. My heart jumped. Where is she? Gone. Did she leave anything else? Olivia hesitated. There was another letter. For me? She slowly shook her head. For me. I frowned. It say? Olivia stared ahead. She said she couldn't keep pretending. I closed my eyes. So, that's it. Period? I think so. The wind carried fallen leaves across the church steps. We came to the moment together. Then, Olivia surprised me. I warned her. I turned toward her. What? I told Emily, months ago, that if she wasn't completely sure, she shouldn't marry you. I blinked. You knew? She looked miserable, but I knew something wasn't right. A bitter laugh escaped me. So everyone knew except me. No. She looked directly into my eyes. I knew she was confused. She paused. I also knew she still cared about you. Apparently not enough. Olivia didn't argue. Instead, she quietly reached into her purse and handed me a folded photograph. It had been taken during our engagement party. Emily and I stood smiling in the center. Olivia was in the background, looking at us. I'd never noticed before. She wasn't watching her sister. She was watching me. There was sadness in her eyes, a sadness that suddenly felt impossible to ignore. I almost threw that away, she admitted. I don't understand. You will. Before I could ask another question, she took a deep breath, then leaned slightly closer. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Daniel. I looked at her. I know this is the worst day of your life. It is. I know this sounds completely insane. It probably does. She nodded, then said the words that would change everything. If you're willing. She stopped, gathering every ounce of courage she had left. I'll marry you. My heart stopped. I stared at her, convinced grief had made me imagine it. What? She met my eyes without flinching. I'm serious. The church bells rang softly in the distance. For a long moment, neither of us moved. I could only hear my own heartbeat. I had lost a bride less than an hour ago. Now her sister was asking me to consider something I never thought possible. And deep inside me, for reasons I couldn't yet explain, part of me didn't stand up and walk away.